Thank you. First of all, thank you to Stop the War for putting on this event tonight. And I apologise in advance if this isn't very funny, but there is so much serious to say on this subject. Here we are again. You know, I first was here about 10, 11 years ago, fighting very similar cuts, only this time it's Labour. I didn't vote for Labour precisely because I was worried that Starmer was a leader who represented the powerful, the elites, and I'm sad to say that even I'm shocked about how terribly he's gone after the most vulnerable people in society and prioritised war and big business. There is so much to say on this. I'd like to start by saying, you know, we keep hearing massive figures of the welfare budget. The government wants to save £5 billion from PIP. And even the terminology we use, benefit, is very misleading because it kind of implies that benefits are a handout, just a free package of money from the state. We never hear about what that money is for. That money is for basic human activities. And I don't believe that there is anyone out there who would choose to get 180 odd quid a week if it meant they could then go to the toilet on their own, or get out of bed, or make a cup of tea, or leave their house unassisted. Now, the reason no one would pick this money is because those human activities, that independence is priceless. We can't put a value on it. And I've received PIP all my life, and that is because I can't leave my house on my own. I can't make a cup of tea. I can't make food. I can't cut up my food. Now, I've adjusted to that, but I tell you, on a human level, one of the hardest things to do is to accept that you can't do very basic human tasks that most people do without a second thought. And what's so toxic about the current rhetoric is it implies people like me are lazy scroungers who are sitting at home delighted that they are scamming the state. Now, I don't know anyone out of my disabled friends who wouldn't give that money back in a heartbeat if it meant they could lead independent lives. Because all the things that most people do without a second thought, you know, having a shower, making a piece of toast, leaving their house every day, some of us can't do that. And I've always had an internal battle to make peace with the fact that I need so much physical help. You know, I railed against that when I was young. I didn't want to admit that I was so dependent. Now, as I've grown older, I've kind of accepted it, and I feel proud to be wobbly, and also I feel that needing help isn't something to be ashamed of or demonise. We all need help as human beings, and disability can and will probably affect everybody. So I think one of the most upsetting pieces of rhetoric is that there is something wrong with needing help. And I'm here to say that as a civilised society, we should be proud to help each other. As a taxpayer, As a taxpayer, I'm proud if my tax money goes on helping people to lead independent, dignified lives. I can't imagine anything better to fund. I want to fund that. I want to fund an NHS. I don't want to fund wars abroad that kill and disable men, women, children and babies. That's what I am ashamed of, and that's what we should be demonising in my mind. I also want to touch on the idea that mental health conditions are somehow lesser or not real disabilities. My disability, of course, is very visible, but the idea that invisible disabilities aren't serious or real is absolutely despicable. And the idea that people have become less resilient or weak is shameful, especially when we look at the decade and a half of austerity, of cuts to wages, of cuts to public services, to basic human rights, so that we have like an in-work poverty rate of one in 8 people in work are in poverty. So this rhetoric that disabled people need to go out and get a job does not make sense when we have such a high rate of in-work poverty. And I have relatives, very dear people to me, with mental health conditions who've scored 0 already on PIP, and then have had to have a breakdown, be admitted to hospital, and then had seen their PIP restored. So this idea that people have to prove how seriously ill they are by having relapses is again such a toxic, inhumane idea. So I think again, we've all got to stand up against this because mental health issues can affect everyone. And a quick note, PIP is already incredibly hard to claim, guys. Over half of people who claim it are rejected. So it's very difficult. And I don't know about you, but I believe that the disability benefits should be a purely medical-based choice. Can you imagine if politicians were involved in deciding which cancer patients got chemo? Because this is what we're facing now. It should be purely medical-based, nothing more, nothing less. And there's so much more to say, but my time is running out. But I'd just like to say, I think these cuts seem very illogical and very chaotic when we look at them in isolation. But I think they're part of a broader trend, and that is one of trying to create a society where there is no expectation of help or support, because if they don't help the most vulnerable in society, they don't have to help anybody. So I think these cuts represent a very scary broader trend, which is to strip away the safety net that society has in place and create a kind of culture, basically America, where there is no safety net and where it is a dog-eat-dog culture. And I, for one, believe that that is not a world we want to be living in, and that we all need to fight very hard to maintain the kind of society where we look after one another and we prioritise basic human rights over warfare, weaponry and big business. Thank you.